The eligibility cutoff for youth hockey is January 1st. That's it, that's the whole reason. When you take a group of 10-year-old boys and put them on the ice together, the kid born in January is almost a full year older than the kid born in October. At 10 years old, 10 months of growth is 3 or 4 inches of height. It's the difference between clumsy and coordinated, slow and fast, weak shot and hard shot, so the coaches do what coaches do. They watch the kids skate, they pick the best ones, they put them on the travel team, they give them extra ice time, better coaches, harder competition, more games per season. They think they're identifying talent, they're identifying birthdays. And then 10 years later, after the January kids have had thousands more hours of coaching than the October kids, they really are better. The prophecy fulfills itself. The October kid never had a chance. Nobody in the system can even see what they did to him, because the October kid quit hockey at 12 and became an accountant, and nobody writes articles about the accountants who could have been in the NHL. The capitalization rate for hockey talent born in the second half of the year is close to 0. Half of every potential elite hockey player on earth gone because of a date, and it doesn't stop at sports. Kids born in the youngest cohort of their school class are 11% less likely to go to college. 11% of a generation's potential lost to the calendar. Then Gladwell pivoted to math, and that's where it got worse. You know how Asian kids dramatically outperform Western kids on math tests? People assume it's genetic. It's not. Gladwell said it's attitudinal, and he had the data to prove it. Every international math test comes with a 120-question survey at the end. Study habits, parental support, attitudes. It's brutally long. Most kids don't finish it. A researcher named Erling Boe ranked countries not by their math scores, but by what percentage of survey questions their kids bothered to complete. Then he laid that ranking next to the math performance ranking. The correlation was 0.98 in social science. Correlation of 0.98 doesn't happen, ever. You can build a career on a 0.4. A 0.7 is a miracle. A 0.98 means the two things are basically the same thing. If you want to know how good a country is at math, you don't need to ask a single math question. Just sit kids down and see if they can focus on a boring task for an extended period of time. If they can, they're good at math. That's the entire game. But why do Asian cultures have this attitude? Gladwell's theory, Rice. A medieval English peasant worked about 1,000 hours a year. Dawn to noon, 5 days a week, winters off, lots of holidays. A medieval peasant in South China or Japan worked 3,000 hours a year, dawn to dusk, every day. Rice farming is not just harder than wheat farming. It's a completely different relationship with effort. There's a Chinese proverb: a man who works dawn to dusk 360 days a year will not go hungry. Gladwell joked that the English equivalent would be: a man who works 175 days a year, dawn to 11, may or may not be hungry. 1,000 years of that becomes part of who you are. And when your great-great-great-grandchild sits down to a calculus problem, the legacy of that persistence translates perfectly. Then he brought. In Kenya, roughly 1 million schoolboys between the ages of 10 and 17 run 10 to 12 miles every single day. In the United States, that number is around 5,000. Our capitalization rate for distance running is under 1%. Kenya's is something like 95. The difference isn't genetic, it's what the culture decides to pay attention to. And then at the end of the talk, Gladwell dropped the line that flipped the entire framework upside down. He said 30% of American entrepreneurs have been diagnosed with a profound learning disability. Richard Branson is dyslexic. Charles Schwab is dyslexic. John Chambers, the CEO of Cisco, can barely read his own emails. And Gladwell argued this isn't a coincidence they overcame. This is the cause of their success. Think about it. If you can't read from the age of 6, what do you have to learn? You learn to delegate because you can't do it yourself. You learn to communicate orally because the page is closed to you. You learn to solve problems because every single day of your childhood is one giant problem. You learn to lead because following requires a syllabus you can't read. 80% of dyslexic entrepreneurs were captains of their high school sports teams, versus 30% of non-dyslexic entrepreneurs by the time they entered the working world. They had already spent 15 years practicing the 4 skills at the heart of entrepreneurial success: delegation, oral communication, problem solving, and leadership. When you ask these people what role their dyslexia played in their success, they don't describe an obstacle they overcame. They describe it as the reason they succeeded, a disadvantage that became an advantage. And that's where Gladwell landed the whole talk when we see differences in success. A reflex is to explain them with differences in ability. We don't want to look at the system. We don't want to admit how much of human potential is wasted by poverty, by birthdays, by attitude, by arbitrary rules nobody questions. We cling to the story that our meritocracies are fair. They aren't. The termites told us that 100 years ago. We just didn't listen. But the capitalization argument, Gladwell said, is liberating. Because if the gap isn't innate, if it's just exploitation we haven't done yet, then it's something we can fix anytime we want, if we choose to pay attention. That talk is 60 minutes long. You can find it free on YouTube. It will teach you more about why people succeed than every self-help book you have ever read. Watch it today, even if it's the only thing you do.